way to incorporate self-compassion into your life, then this month's book therapy pick is for you. Hey y'all, my name is Diana Garcia. I'm a licensed mental health counselor in Florida, owner of a private practice called Nurturing Minds Counseling. If you're new around here, my monthly book therapy series is where I pick one mental health, self-help book to review, recommend, and at least highlight 3 insights from the book, just in case you don't have time to actually read the book. All right, let's jump in. This month's book therapy pick is The Mindful Path to Self-Compassion by Dr. Christopher Germer. The subtitle is Freeing Yourself from Destructive Thoughts and Emotion. This was on my to-read list for a while because I actually follow him and Dr. Kristen Neff's work, because really I think both of them do a lot of work on self-compassion, if not are some of the pioneers in self-compassion. So this was something that I've really been looking forward to reading. All right, so let's just jump into the actual book and how it's broken down. You can see from the screen, the book is broken down into 3 parts. Part 1, discovering self-compassion. So pretty much that's just all kind of giving you the nitty-gritty of what self-compassion is, what does it look like, and then also kind of explaining mindfulness, because again, he talks about the mindful path to self-compassion, so using a lot of principles from mindfulness to start cultivating self-compassion in your life. I love that throughout the chapters, he has like little boxes that really reference his research studies, because I'm a nerd, so I really like having that research to back it up, and I think other people do too as well, to really kind of resonate why you're even trying to change your relationship with yourself or start incorporating these skills. Part 2, practicing loving kindness. So loving kindness may be another kind of meditative practice that really incorporates self-compassion principles. It's really all about, again, getting into like, what does that actually look like? Exercises to do, again, exercises throughout, mindfulness exercises and loving kindness exercises. And then number 3, part 3, customizing self-compassion. So again, he goes through some common barriers, stuck places, some things to problem solve to help you kind of move through. Then the appendix, there's lots of resources and exercises that you can do, which I also appreciated from the book, that you can go to the appendixes, and I thought he had some really good resources there. Insight number 1 is really jumping into acceptance and the 5 stages of acceptance, because from the get-go, Dr. Germer talks a lot about really, in order to really start to lean into this mindfulness, self-compassion practices, you have to lean into acceptance and having the willingness to make room for any uncomfortable thoughts and feelings. The definition that he uses, or acceptance, means to embrace whatever arises within us moment to moment, just as it is, right? So he talks about this can work with uncomfortable thoughts or feelings or physical sensations, even to a certain degree memories. But again, he also talks about throughout the book tailoring this acceptance practice, or again, this perspective of acceptance to your window of tolerance, so what you can really handle, and building yourself up to that. But then he talks about, right, because you want to really lean into, it's normal to have uncomfortable thoughts and feelings, but then he talks about the 5 stages that you go through when you start to go through acceptance. The first one is aversion. So that's really when you're not really in acceptance mode. So that's when you're still kind of engaging in your default mode of trying to turn away or avoid or control, which again, that's very normal for all humans. I like to say single cell organisms move away from pain. So it's just normal that we also will move away from internal experiences that cause us discomfort. But when we think of these different stages, the first stage is just aversion. So you're not really willing to have it. Stage 2 is curiosity. So that's when you're just maybe starting to like think, okay, well maybe, and you get a little interested. You start to get curious about what your experience is, the different elements, what it could be. So you're again kind of tiptoeing a little bit around that acceptance space. Stage 3 is tolerance. So again, this is more of like, okay, I'm curious, I'm willing to tolerate this uncomfortable experience, but there's more of like, I just have to, so I guess I'll tolerate it, but it's a much different attitude per se from the next 2 stages. The next stage is for allowing. So really more than just tolerating when you have to because you feel like you have no other choice, but really more just allowing feelings to come and go. So having more of like an open perspective, a willingness to just allow thoughts and feelings to kind of just go, just like waves, and just being open to whatever those experiences are. And then the last one, the 5th one, friendship. So this one, I think it might be a hard concept for some people to wrap their minds around, but really embracing their uncomfortable experiences, thoughts or feelings, but also even seeing seeing kind of some hidden value. Maybe there's some insight or knowledge in these experiences for them, something for them to learn. So they really befriend their inner experience. They say, not only am I willing to tolerate you, but allow you to come and go, but I actually want to sit with you a little bit and understand maybe what you have to teach me, which again, I know can be really hard, especially when we're thinking of really difficult and painful experiences. Below, which stage do you really resonate with? And there's no right or wrong answer. We're human. Maybe there's certain experiences where you find yourself being more open and allowing versus other experiences where there's just complete aversion. Let me know your thoughts of which stage really resonate with you. Second insight is about the 5 pathways to self-compassion. Really quickly, self-compassion includes 3 components: self-kindness, self-talk, how do you talk to yourself in moments of difficulty; mindfulness, being present with your experience; and common humanity, recognizing that your struggles actually connect you to humanity in general. You're not alone in your struggles. You can actually check out this book by Dr. Kristen Neff, and I go into a little bit more of the specifics of self-compassion. First one is physically. So really, how do you relate to your body? And this can look many different ways. So self-compassion towards your kind of physically, that avenue can look like really incorporating more healthy habits for your body because you want it to really, you're kind of loving your body, you're nourishing it in the way that feels right to you. That also means like allowing and accepting. So maybe softening into the parts of your body that feel uncomfortable or that cause some self-critical thoughts, and still kind of generating some loving kindness and warmth towards those parts of yourself or your body that feel uncomfortable. And again, like physically also looks like being able to listen to your body cues and know when you actually need movement versus when you need rest, right? When you're nourishing your body in a way that feels meaningful to you, whatever that looks like. So again, also incorporating some kind of physical touch exercises can also help. So kind of warm, kind of directing warmth to your body, or kind of touching your hands to your heart, different ways that you can incorporate it through actually self-compassion practices. Okay, the second one is all about mentally, so allowing your thoughts to just be. Really, he talks about just noticing when you're getting stuck worrying or ruminating about the past, really kind of bringing yourself back in those moments, having a little bit more kindness for yourself in those moments, holding those thoughts gently. He also talks about a key question he asked: if you had a month to live, would this worry or concern really be that important to you? Or really recognizing and bringing you back to earth per se. One is emotionally, so really befriending your feelings. So that goes back to maybe the fifth stage of acceptance, but in general with your emotions, kind of making room for your emotions. How are you treating yourself? How do you take care of yourself emotionally, if that makes sense? So really acknowledging when you're in that experience, what are difficult feelings for you, as well as acknowledging what are activities that you can do that maybe feel a little bit more fulfilling and fill you up when you're really feeling down or you're struggling. So, but overall, he talks about the same thing with kind of thoughts, really making room for these experiences, treating yourself kindly when you're going through a hard time, but also being really clear what you need during those moments. Relationally, so I really like this one because it's talk about cultivating supportive relationship with others. Obviously, self-compassionate practices, to a certain degree, it's an inside job, but it's not exclusively inside job, right? It's also cultivating relationships with others that provide you support and that are nurturing, and that you also feel like you can show up to those relationships authentically, right? And that's really more of like outside in terms of like doing behaviors or trusting relationships or shifting in the way you engage with others. So he really talks about that sometimes it's easy to notice, or sometimes it's easy to forget when our social supports have really thinned out until there's a moment of crisis and we realize that we have no one to turn to. So really acknowledging that nurturing these social supports are so important, whatever that looks like for you, but really cultivating these relationships and being on top of them, because the reality is connection is what makes us thrive, not just romantically or even just connection with ourselves, but connections with others. Is spirituality. So what are you doing to cultivate your spirit? So whatever practices that looks like, whether that's attending a certain religious activity, church, mosque, whatever that looks like for you, reading, praying, meditating, again, anything that for you really tends to fill your soul and spirit. For some people, that might mean more of like being out in nature, and that's where they feel a connection to the universe. So they make it a point to incorporate those places in their lives or those activities so that they can kind of connect to that part of themselves or the universe, or maybe they go to retreats or things like that. So again, it's really figuring out what are the practices that you can incorporate in your life that nourish this part of yourself. Insight is this acronym, but with steps to really help you deal with challenges. So it's face your challenges. The F is really feel the pain. So that's just really one, just acknowledging when you're in that space. So kind of that mindfulness piece that we've been talking throughout. And in the book at this point, you've been practicing mindfulness. The A is really accept the pain, right? So that acceptance piece, which again, we've been talking about throughout this video and is really kind of honed in throughout the book. But at that point, really making room for that uncomfortable feeling or thoughts or whatever the situation is. So accepting that discomfort. Passionately respond. So again, tapping into those other parts of self-compassion. So really being kind to yourself, giving yourself what you need, whether that's talking it out, whether that's just, again, giving yourself space, whether that's engaging in a loving kindness meditation, whatever that is, but compassionately responding to that experience. And E is expect skillful action. So I really like that he talks about then the next step is actually figuring out what type of behavioral change would be appropriate based on the situation once you've kind of gone through these steps, right? So instead of just acting impulsively or just engaging in a behavior before you've even acknowledged that you're going through a hard time or when you're still beating yourself up, the E, the last step, is really kind of skillful action, right? So that skillful piece is really important here. Like button now to let me know that you're going to try to incorporate this acronym, the face your challenges, into your daily or weekly routine. Hit the like button now. So many more resources and insights and nuggets that I just could not cover from this book. Honestly, there was a lot in here. I really enjoyed this book, so I do recommend that you pick it up. If you do, let me know your thoughts. Was there something that really resonated that clearly I didn't cover? And as always, I encourage you to continue nurturing your mind, body, and soul, whatever that looks like for you.